Hey there guys, Mikey here, and welcome to another episode of Old to the New. Today we're going to get into, actually, a couple of my favorite movies, and they both revolve around one character, Superman. We're going to be talking about Superman the movie, released in 1978, and Man of Steel, released in 2013. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So like I said, Superman was released in 1978. It stars Christopher Reeve, obviously, as our titular character, Gene Hackman, Margot Robbie. Why is Margot Robbie on my mind? Oh, yeah, that's probably why. Margot Kidder, and Marlon Brando. So, we all know the story of Superman. He is on the planet Krypton, which is about to be destroyed, and he gets sent to Earth right before he's about to be destroyed. He is the quote-unquote last son of Krypton. So he's sent to Earth, and while he's on Earth, he gets all of these powers from the radiation from the sun. You know, he gets super strength, super speed, super hearing, super vision. Is that a thing? Supervision. He gets heat vision. He can super breath. I think that's just enhanced, like, because we can make things cold or hot, depending on our breath and stuff. We can use our breath to warm our hands up, or we can use our breath to cool off hot soup or something. So I'm guessing that's just what that's about. Heat vision, I never really understood. Also, a bunch of other ones, such as mind reading. When did that become a thing? That's not in this movie, though. He just got your basic skills as Superman. So, growing up, we get a little bit of a glimpse of the past of Clark Kent. He's going to high school. He's kind of treated kind of crappily, which you could probably understand a little bit. I mean, high school jocks will be high school jocks, and they're going to pick on somebody, and they pick on him, unfortunately. And, he has his little way of having fun with these people or whatever. They just think like you're just weird, and he's just like, yeah, I don't care though, whatever. He's actually kind of confident as a kid, surprisingly, despite like what the nature of himself, he's surprisingly pretty confident as a kid. Kind of interesting. But unfortunately, we get that one scene where Pa Kent dies, and this was probably one of the most powerful scenes in the movie in Superman lore, is that when he dies of a heart attack. And you can see the pain in young Clark's face. It's just like, and he says, of all the things I can do, I couldn't save him. I couldn't do anything to save him. And that really kind of tugs at your heartstrings there. You kind of like, you kind of get a sense of really who he is, and like, it humanized him. It humanized him and humbled him, probably for one of the first times in his life. Just realizing like, I can't do anything. Of all the things, I can't stop death. So yeah, that was pretty powerful. And then, his mother goes in and tells him about his past and everything. He takes it surprisingly well. And, he goes to the North Pole because he can. He's Superman, so like, well, he's Superboy at this time, but, he can make that trip into the North Pole. And this is where he throws the crystal, and these Fortress of Solitude grows from it. And you realize, I'm just not, every time I have to explain this movie, it's like realizing like, this sounds kind of silly. But, in a sense, the movie itself has silly moments. So like, and it kind of makes it work in a sense. The movie is not overly serious. It doesn't try to take itself extremely serious. There are some really serious moments in the movie, but it never tries to be like, oh, I'm really serious about this right now. Obviously, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, So, but he's once he's inside the Fortress of Solitude, he is met with a holographic projection of his father, Jor-El, and who's played by Marlon Brando. And, he learns even more about his past. And from then, we get the typical Superman. We get Clark Kent coming to the Daily Planet for the first time, meeting with Lois Lane, who is all over the place. I gotta give it up to Margot Kidder for that one. She played this person who is, I'm like, she's literally all over the place. She is, as they say in the South, wide open. She does not stop, and it's like, it's really, really cool. I'm like, that's, if I was going to, if that's Lois Lane off of the comics right there. I'm like, that's her. That's totally her. And it's interesting and everything. So and then eventually we get our first viewing of Superman when he saves Lois Lane from a helicopter crash and everything, which technically not a helicopter crash. I think it crashed, but not really. So, but he saves her and the other pilots and everything, and that's the first time the world really gets a view of Superman, and it's kind of a funny scene. It's just like he grabs her and he's got the helicopter. He's like, "Don't worry, I've got you." He's like, "Got me? Who's got you? What the heck's going on? What is happening right now?" And it's cool, and we get, of course, that one scene that everyone probably geeked out about back in 1978. I wasn't alive then, so I couldn't tell you, but everyone geeked out about it when he runs off and he just pulls open his shirt and reveals the S, and I'm like, that's it. I mean, even like today when I watch that, it's just like geek out moment. I may not geek out physically, but in my mind, I'm just like, that's so awesome. This is so awesome right now. I'm just like, you're waiting for that one moment, and it's payoff when it does happen. I don't know why I have this thing when I'm doing this series. I kick the camera. At least one time I kicked the tripod. So, but, and the effects are kind of dated, but to this day, when he flies off, when he flies off after he's saving Lois, and he's like, "Bye," and he just flies off, that is the most realistic effect in the movie. If I'm being perfectly honest, that is the most realistic thing in the movie, when he just gets lifted, when he flies off there. I'm like, it looked kind of, if I saw that in 1970, I'm like, that's real. That's real. Christopher Reeve can fly. Christopher Reeve can fly. That's real, man. You can't tell me nothing. That's real. So, and then it's kind of, you get the little love story between he and Lois and everything. And again, we get that whole dated thing. Like, this really would not work in this day and time, because, like, we might see it as endearing or something. Like, yeah, but especially women today, that could be viewed as creepy and a little bit stalkerish. So, I mean, if you're being honest, yeah, I would be, if I was a woman and somebody is sending me notes and stuff like that. I'm like, realizing that they're watching me, I'm like, no, no, thanks though. So, but yeah, they meet, and you have like, okay, the interview, and then the majestical "I spent the night with Superman" type thing, where like they go flying and through Metropolis and everything. It's a really sweet scene, and obviously, like, it's completely defies the laws of physics, but it's really sweet in and of itself. And then we eventually, I mean, we met him earlier on, but we get to see more of the villain, Lex Luthor, Mr. Luthor, played by Gene Hackman, and he is gloriously over the top. He is so awesome. I mean, when Kevin Spacey did his take on Lex Luthor in, I'm going to call him Mr. Luthor from now on, Lex Luthor in Superman Returns, I thought that was really cool. I thought his interpretation, I mean, it was called back to Gene Hackman's interpretation, but it was still, I thought it was really cool. But you can't top the you can't top Mr. Hackman in this. Like, he was gloriously over the top, and it was wonderful. He's just like, "I am Lex Luthor, the most diabolical criminal mind in the universe." And I'm just like, golly, man, could you be any more full of yourself? And I love Miss Tessmacher. Tessmacher's just like, whatever. Like, in a sense, like, kind of like still like in the lackey sense, but it has that that whole like, yeah, you're full of yourself, I'm making fun of you, but to the point, not to a point where it's like distracting or like, he would probably kill her for it. It's just kind of like she's having a little bit of fun with his personality in a sense. So but anyway, like, he reveals his big plan, and is to create this fault line and separate some of California. And he has his plan to distract Superman. And he's just like, okay, well, you can either do this. And he sends two missiles two ways. Now, if we all know Superman lore, obviously he is definitely fast enough to catch those two missiles. We know that. We know that. But the movie, I felt like weakened him a little bit. Understandable. Like, he was still kind of developing. And, the longer he spends on Earth, the stronger he gets and everything. He'd been there since a baby, so he was pretty strong. And I felt like, yeah, he could have done it then, but he doesn't. But he can only go after one and everything. We get the first introduction to kryptonite, which is, we can call it Lex being smart or whatever. I feel like it was Superman being overconfident. And that's the thing, like, I always really liked about certain Superman movies and certain Superman comics, is that the villain will play on Superman's confidence. Superman is so strong and he's so powerful that he just kind of like forgets that, hey, I can still be outsmarted by somebody or something. I'm like, I know his brain works at a million times faster than ours do, but even the smartest person could be outsmarted. It doesn't matter how fast your brain works or anything like that. If you can sit there and try to anticipate everything, but if he gets to a point where just like you get blinded by your own confidence. You don't think. And he didn't think, and that's what got him trapped by the kryptonite and everything. But Miss Teschmacher frees him because her mother's in New Jersey, and the rocket's about to fly off and blow up New Jersey. So he's either save New Jersey or save California. And she's like, you have to save my mom first. And he does. He gets rid of that rocket first, and then goes to California to try to stop that one, but can't, and then it creates this massive earthquake and everything like that. And there's a bunch of destruction, and he does his absolute best to save it. So like I said, some of these defy physics, obviously, but he saved Jimmy Olsen. Good on that. Good on him. Saved your old pal and everything. But unfortunately, in this whole ordeal, he couldn't save Lois. And when I saw this as a kid, I was like, no. Because Lois essentially dies in the accident. It's just like, no, you can't do that. And Christopher Reeve's reaction, I don't say Superman, but Christopher Reeve, the way he played this reaction, every time I see this, I actually choke up a little bit. I actually get choked up, and I'm like, because it's just like, he lost his father, and he's just like, I could have done something. I could have been here a little bit faster. You could tell he really, really blamed himself for it. And he lets out this loud, just, wow. It was played very well, to the point where it's just like, I get choked up a little bit, and you see like the anger in his eyes when he flies off and everything. And when I'm a kid, and even to this day, I kind of still wish it played out this way. I thought he was going after Lex Luthor because he was the one that did it. He's the one that sent off these rockets. I thought he was going after that, but no. He flies into the Earth's out of the Earth's orbit for a little bit, flies around the Earth a few times. Pretty fast, turns back time, and everything's hunky-dory, and everything's takes Luthor to jail, and everything's fine. Happy ending. Okay, I love this movie. Even I gotta admit, that's really silly. I mean, I know it's a dark ending that to kill off Lois, and it's really ballsy, but that is one of the most cop-out endings I have ever seen. He flies up, turns back time, and everything's fine. And he just takes Luthor to jail, has a conversation with Lois, and it's just like, happy ending. Like, okay. Even when I was a kid, I knew that was silly. I was just like, whoa, what? He could do that? I mean, granted, Superman could do some really amazing things, so I don't really put it past him to be able to do something like that, to be able to travel back in time. Not turn back time, but travel back in time. I wouldn't be surprised, but and there's probably a comic out there that he actually does, so whatever. But that was just like, really? Really? And as an adult now, I look at it and I'm just like, how much better would it have been if Lois had died? And he goes to confront Luthor, and he means to kill him. He has the power to kill Lex Luthor, but instead decides to take him to jail. How much... And it has to live with that decision. And I'm like, it's kind of a down ending, but it really shows that Superman, no matter what, believes in his ideals. And if you didn't want it to be Superman, I hate to say this, but maybe it could have been his mom. I'm all against, like, I'm really kind of against attacking the mothers. It's like, don't do that. Don't attack the moms, man. But if you didn't want to kill Lois, she's the next closest thing to him, So if you were going to do it like that, and then, have that scene play out. But we got what we got. So all in all, I still enjoy this movie. I still watch it on a regular basis. Regular being like, every year or so, at least pop it in one time. So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. But it has been redone in the terms of Man of Steel. So let's take a look at the 2013 remake of Man of Steel. So, like I said, Man of Steel was released in 2013. It was directed by Zack Snyder, and it stars Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, Kevin Costner, and Henry Cavill as the titular character. Now, this was probably one of the first polarizing movies of DC. People seem to either love it or hate it. You had very few that were kind of in between. I was always one kind of leaning on, I kind of really liked it. I didn't love it, but I really enjoyed it. I kind of like that people didn't like it for some reason, and a lot of it was because they felt like, they were trying to make Superman too much like Batman, and he's too dark, and he's too brooding, and he's, but I had to look at it on another level. And, this was during a time when I went into movies and I threw out everything I knew about of a character. And I'm just like, all right, give me the essence of a character. Like, I know I'm expecting at least some of the essence, but I want to see what you do with this. So, I went into this movie completely open-minded and just sat down like, show me something. Tell me a story. And for the most part, it told me a pretty good story. I was really invested in it. I mean, it kind of has your same, Kal-El's comes to Earth and stuff like that. But I did like that you got to spend a little more time on Krypton. Krypton actually seemed like a world. We just didn't get the room like we got in the original Superman, but we got a world. And it was really a vast world. Like, you saw animals living there, you saw other people, you saw the battle that went on between Zod and Jor-El, and you see like the decisions that had to be made. You find out that you find out that Kal-El is actually the first childbirth, natural childbirth in a long time, because all of the other people were either grown and bred to do certain functions. And it was kind of interesting. I actually, to be honest, wanted to know a little bit more about Krypton. After seeing that, it was just like, I'd watch a movie about Krypton at this current point in time. I was like, I want to know a little more. I want to know how they actually evolved to become this type of thing. So I'm just like, I was genuinely interested, but unfortunately it blows up. So, and he winds up on Earth, but you see a different side of what it was like growing up for him. In the original, Clark was always kind of confident in his self. This one's not so much, because even though he could do certain things, he's told, no, you can't do that. You can seriously hurt somebody if you fight back. And we all know how bullies are going to be if you don't fight back. We all know, I mean, if you've had a bully and if you didn't fight back, you knew how it was going to be. Your life was going to be a living hell. And I'm sorry. You expect him to be, and this was my thing, was just like, I'm sorry. You expect him to have any kind of confidence after that? Dealing with this guy? And I'm just like, how much restraint does he have to not he could, but he doesn't want to. And I understand that. And on a certain level, because when I started taking martial arts, I was play fighting with this one kid in school or whatever, and I just threw out a kick, and to me it was just like, it was just kind of like, there. I put him on the ground, and he didn't get up for a few minutes. He was laughing about it afterwards, but it was just like, he didn't get up for a few minutes, and it's kind of like, it scared me, because like, I had actually kicked the wind out of him, and I didn't realize how strong I'd actually been, how strong I had gotten, and it scared me. And I said, no, I don't want to fight it. And after that, I was kind of like, I don't want to fight anybody. I can't, because I can really hurt somebody if I do. Man, some bullies took it a little. They were just like standing over in the corner when I made that decision, like, we got you now. And they just, how bullies are. If you don't fight back, regardless of what your reason for not fighting is, whether you can't fight, or you're scared of getting beat up, or you're scared of them, or you're scared of hurting them, they will just make your life a living hell. And that happened for me for a little bit. So I understood. I was not happy about it. I was not like the most bright child, just like I wasn't all bright and sunshiny, like, yeah, everything's hunky. No. I would come home from school some days just really depressed. And that's what I really got from this showing of the younger version of Clark. The only thing was, they kind of showed like the movie in, like, you saw a little bit of Clark, and then you saw a flashback, and then you see, like, it was kind of like going back and forth between present day and then the past, and they all kind of related, but I kind of wished it was a little bit linear. I feel like it would have flowed better if it was a little bit more linear. It's just like, okay, show him a scene of this, show a scene of this, show a scene of this, and then now, okay, because by the point, like, when they're showing these flashbacks, he's a drifter. And he's just trying to find his place in the world, because this strays far from the original Superman movie, and probably far from some of the comics and stuff. But this is a Clark. This is not Superman at this time. This is Clark, and he is trying to find himself. He found out when he was a teenager from his father that he wasn't here. He doesn't necessarily belong here. And he doesn't know where he belongs in life, and he's trying to find out where that is. And he's been instilled into him at a very young age that, oh, well, if you do this, people will not react the way you think they would. And if I'm being perfectly honest, if somebody rescues a lady and grabs a helicopter and everything like that, there will be people that praise him and be like, yeah, cool, and like, what, hey, this is a good guy. And there will be a lot of people that are afraid of him. And that's what old Pa Kent was afraid of. That's what he was afraid of, was not so much the people that would praise him. Yeah, he understood that they would be there, but the people that feared him. And, the Yoda saying, fear turns to hate, hate turns to anger, fear turns to anger, anger turns to hate. And, he didn't want that for him. So that had been instilled in him, throughout his life and everything. And even when he saved a bus full of kids from drowning, obviously he would have been fine, but everyone else would have died. And then, people start confronting the family about it. And he was just like, well, maybe because like some of the kids saw and stuff, they were just like, well, maybe he didn't see what he thought he saw and stuff like that. They're trying to like, just kids. They tell like the weirdest stories. Kids say the darndest things, and but Kent takes him. He's out by the garage and everything. And he's talking to him, and he's just like, "You can't do stuff like that. This is why, because people get afraid. People are afraid. People react. They don't react the way you expect them to react. They see stuff like this that can't be explained, and it scares them." And he's like, "Well, what am I supposed to do? Let them die?" And he's just like, "Maybe." And I understand that scene got a little bit of scrutiny because they're just like, oh, so he's telling him that he should just let kids die and stuff like that. But understanding the scope of what's going on, like the world today, like you may be okay with with a superhero. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't. And we've seen that. We've seen that in this particular movie. We've seen that in the Avengers movie. There's people that are really like, yeah, these people saved my life and everything. And then there's people that just, And if it's the right people, you have a serious problem on your hands. And like I said, not saying that the right people, but like people with power and stuff, people that have political power or financial power, if they're against you, that makes your life that much harder. And like I said, this is what he was trying to avoid for Clark. He wants him to go and live out to his potential, but he's afraid because of what the world is and how the world is and everything. And I completely understood. I was on board with it. I completely understood. And so I kind of understood, like, okay, he's out there, he's a drifter, he doesn't, every time he does something, he has to leave because he doesn't want people asking questions. He doesn't want people so for the most part, he's become a myth. He's done things and then he's had to leave, and not myth, ghost or whatever, Lois goes and finds him, and then, she finally digs up this whole trail and stuff, digs up this dirt trail that winds up he winds up leaving, somebody. I liked Lois in this movie because she was, in my opinion, kind of intelligent, She's just like, yeah, I picked this apart and everything, and, it all kind of circulated back here, and then, they met, they talked, and then she realized, yeah, you're, it's not, I understand. She got it. She was just like, I'm not going to publish this story. I'm just going to drop it. I get it. I understand. 100%. So, then this is where the action part of the movie starts to pick up, because we have this whole storytelling part, and then we have to have this action part. And unfortunately, as good as some of the action is, it feels a little disjointed, because you had this one movie that was kind of I'm into this, this is kind of dramatic and stuff. I'm kind of into this and everything. And then you have this action movie that comes out, and it's kind of disjointed. It's just you're telling I'm sitting down, I'm yeah, I'm talking to you, man, and we're, this is what's going on in my life and everything. And I was like, and it's okay, what happened? So it's jarring in the effect of how it happens and everything. So they probably could have done that transition a little bit better. Whatever. But here, the action started. Now, Superman just learned he could fly maybe a couple days ago. He just now is starting to tap into his material. He's starting to tap into his potential and understanding okay, this is how strong I can actually be. I can do things like this. And it's actually funny when he tries to fly and fails. He flies into a mountain and destroys it. And it's kind of ow. It's kind of funny, it's kind of it made a little bit more sense that when it happened to him rather than Iron Man, because Iron Man he flew and he landed in the desert and landed in And the sand landed on the sand and in the ground and stuff, and his suit was like everywhere. And I was like, yeah, he should have died, dude. He totally should have died. But when Superman crashed into him, I was like, it's Superman. Yeah, he'd be fine. He'd be all right. Get up, walk it off, and he does. He actually does get up, walk it off, and he learns how to fly. So he literally learned how to fly a few days ago. But when the aliens start to attack, when Zod and his minions begin to attack, they did one thing that I really, really actually enjoyed. Superman can't fight. He cannot fight. He's never been in a fight. He's never had to throw a punch. He doesn't, I mean, outside of what, watching TV or anything, he has no experience whatsoever. So he is stronger than every single one of these aliens. This is why he can actually go toe to toe with them. But he can't fight, so he's actually getting his ass handed to him the entire time. So I'm just like, I actually kind of like this. It kind of like bull in a china shop. He's never like been able to like use his power and stuff. So yeah, and he's unstable. I'm not even gonna lie about that. He is unstable. He's got anger issues and stuff. Obviously, he's been holding back for so long. So when Zod threatens his mom, yep, all of it comes out. All of it comes out. You see that anger come out, and it's just like, yep. And if I'm being honest with you, somebody threatened my mom. You think I care if a gas station blow? Nope. I'm like, all I care about is beating that ass. That's all I'm going to care about at the time, and I'll realize the repercussions afterwards. Like, oh, crap. My bad. But and there's a lot of scrutiny about how the death toll and everything and how Metropolis really got wrecked. The bulk of Metropolis getting wrecked was actually from the World Engine, not from the Superman Zod fight did not help, but the World Engine actually caused most of the damage, and a lot of the damage was real. Most the other damage during the Superman Zod fight was because Superman couldn't fight. He doesn't know how to control his powers. So I hope that in the future that there's something that kind of leads to that. It's like, okay, I need to know how to control this. I need to dial back and only release what I need to release. And there's some nice little call to that in Justice League Unlimited. I think it's like the last episode. He's like, I live in a world full of glass. I have to take especially good care not to break anything, always feel I'm going to break something, break someone, just, I have to be so restrained. So this is him, like I said, bull in a china shop, unrestrained. So, the action made sense. The destruction made sense, when they're fighting and stuff like that. Because he doesn't know how to fight, he doesn't know how to maneuver. He hasn't tapped into that potential yet. So I understood. The only thing was, when the Superman Zod fight was beginning to happen, it was, Zod was trying to recreate Krypton and bring his people back and everything, because that was his purpose. He was bred to do that. He was bred to protect the people of Krypton. So when, it's realized that he can't do that anymore, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but when it's realized he can't do that anymore, I kind of figured they were going to go. I mean, it's a darker movie, granted, but I thought they were going to go real dark. I thought he was going to off himself. I thought he was going to kill himself right then and there, and I'm like, oh gosh, what is he going to do? What is he going to do? But no, he starts another fight, and this is probably when I feel like the action is just taking too long. It's kind of like overstaying welcome a little bit. It's like, okay. Okay, we're fighting again. All right. I mean, this looks cool, but I'm a little. It's going on a little bit longer than I would actually like it to. And then there is the other controversy, the one that people are really split about, is where Superman kills Zod at the end. And it's one of those things I understood why it happened. Did I like that it happened? Not really. I wasn't particularly thrilled about it, but I understood why it happened because, there comes a time where a superhero is going to be, well, with anybody, is going to have to face a decision that they have to make. And at the time, that was the only thing, like, probably in a number of ways he could have done it. But then again, you could argue there's a number of ways he could have handled the fight. First fight. He doesn't know any better. So when he does kill Zod, it's kind of like, wow. But the reaction to it afterwards kind of was just like, was kind of powerful. It didn't have the same effect as, like, obviously when Lois died in the first one, but you felt like, wow, that must have really hurt, because he not only killed Zod, but he killed the last of his kind, to the point where he is now, as a Kryptonian, alone. And that had to hurt. I'm sorry, but I felt like that had to hurt, so I understood it. The problem I had with it is they didn't do, there was nothing happened to further that message out. You never saw the effect of it after. It's just kind of like cuts to another scene, and it's just like, oh, well, I guess he's over it now. It doesn't, the action lingered very long, but I felt like, when something should have lingered, I felt like that should have lingered a little longer. You should have saw that effect a little bit longer. That bothered me a little bit. So, it's not a perfect movie, but, other than that, I still really like Man of Steel. If I had to choose between these two movies, the Superman 1978 film and Man of Steel, I watch both of them. I'm not even going to lie. I pop in the original and I watch the Man of Steel one almost every year. I know I watch Superman at least once a year. Man of Steel is like, most times I will catch it. I will watch it because I genuinely like it. I like what they were trying to go for. I like that they were, and one of the main things I like is the actual title of the movie. And it's like, yes, he's called Superman after a while, but I felt like this movie was titled Man of Steel was actually kind of metaphorical because, well, not metaphorical, but very literal, because he's not Superman yet. He is the Man of Steel. He's not Superman yet. So he has to grow into that. So this is kind of like seeing that evolution of how he becomes, how he goes from this, this kid who realized he was an alien and person who feels like he doesn't belong anywhere, how he goes from that to this icon and that we all kind of look up to and stuff. So how does he become that? It made Superman relatable in a sense or whatever. Yeah, there's another issue I do have. I will have to say this. The Superman Lois thing in Man of Steel just feels like it was it. I felt like it happened because it had to happen. I didn't feel like it was like really earned, like their romance together and stuff like that. I just felt like it happened because it's Superman and Lois, and I didn't really particularly care for that. I'm just like, oh, okay, I guess you guys are a couple now. Whatever. But it's fine. It's fine. I mean, going forward, I respect that she knows his identity and stuff like that now. I understand that probably most of Smallville knows his identity, and they're just gonna kind of keep quiet about it. I mean, they kind of keep quiet about it until somebody asks. But notice that nobody really stood forward when Zod threatened the planet. They were just like, nah, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I don't know anybody named Kal-El. Nobody named Kal-El here. No, I don't know what you're talking about. I kind of like that. They all could have stepped forward and said like, "Oh, it's him," but nobody did. And I was like, "It's really cool." I mean, it's one of those little things in the movies, like probably not a lot of people catch, but I thought that was really cool. Like nobody said anything. They were just like, I mean, a reporter come around. They were just like, "Oh, it's him." He live out there, But an alien comes and threatens the planet. They're just like, nah, nah, man. Snitches get stitches, fool. I ain't trying to get no stitches. So like I said, these honestly are two very different takes on Superman. I like both of them. They both have issues. I can't argue that. You cannot argue against that. They both have issues. The one, the 1971 is probably a little bit too silly. The whole turning back time thing's complete cop out. But then again, you have some story inconsistencies in Man of Steel, and you have the jarring, like all of a sudden the action that lingers just a little bit too long. But other than that, I like both of these movies, and I have no problem. Like if I had a kid and he wanted to see Superman, I would show him both of these movies and let him decide which one he liked better. I mean, I like both of them. I think I like the 1978 one a little bit better because that's the one I grew up with. Because nostalgia. Me, I'm a nostalgic guy. So, Man of Steel, I still really like though. I still watch it. I still think it's cool. Yeah. That's my take on both of these films. What do you think of Superman and Man of Steel? I hope you have seen at least Superman the 1978 version. You better have. At least by this point you better have anyway. But what did you think of it? Did you like Superman? Whatever you think, put it in the comments below. Let me know. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video.